The LTO Show, the premier podcast for leaders in the LTO tape storage community. Each episode dives deep into the business and technology issues that matter most. The LTO Show keeps you informed and inspired. Be part of the future of storage today.
Welcome back to the LTO Show. I'm Pete Paisley, and we just got back from NAB a week or so ago, one of the biggest media and entertainment technology shows on the planet, where we caught up with three vendors in the LTO space: Spectralogic, Archiware, and YoYotta. Each of them had exciting updates to share. And one thing rang clear throughout: S3 connectivity and continued feature growth for S3 are front and center. Whether you're investigating ways to implement tape storage on-prem or looking to a hybrid solution using the cloud, tape is becoming a more powerful and more accessible part of the picture than ever. In particular, both Archiware and YoYotta have made real strides in bringing S3 features within reach for a much wider range of budgets. What used to require serious enterprise investment is now something smaller studios and post houses can actually get their hands on. And with Spectralogic, we enjoyed spending time looking at their amazing SpectraCube library with the embedded Spectra storage server with S3 connectivity. The SpectraCube features an amazing 1,670 slots in a single 19-inch rack. That's almost 70 petabytes of non-compressed storage right there. So let's get into it. Let's see what's new from the show floor at NAB. I'm here with Mike Waters from Spectralogic Enterprise Sales.
Okay.
Pete, we're here to talk a little bit about what's new with Spectra at NAB, and we're going to start with the SpectraCube.
Thanks, Pete. Well, what we're looking at is the side of the SpectraCube. This is our latest storage device. It holds over 1,600 cartridges. And what that creates today is a density with the latest drives of over 50 petabytes in a little over the size of a 19-inch rack that sits in a data center.
Yeah, and I had to ask. I said 1,500 some slots in this chassis right here, and that is a fact.
Right.
This holds up to 1,500 and 1,670.
Actually, 1,670.
Yeah. That's pretty good slot density.
Right, slot density. So the way it's been engineered is to still use either the latest LTO 10 tapes or the latest LTO 10 tapes and drives, or we're very backwards compatible all the way to LTO 6. So our customers can leverage the use of legacy media, legacy tape drives.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit about how Spectralogic is supporting object storage on tape.
Okay. That's a very big part of what we're doing into tape devices right now. So we've created an abstraction layer so that the function that's going on inside the tape library is not part of your day-to-day handling of the tapes. Gone are the days of, I have to reach in, I have to find these things, I have to move them place to place. What we're doing here is creating an S3 layer or an Amazon compatible S3 using the same API calls and everything. That device also creates the ability for our customers to be able to send data to the cloud, have them send data to other storage devices that are out here, and have that go to an AWS S3 compliant tape device that might be out here. It used to be called the Black Pearl, and we've evolved the naming conventions now, and we're calling everything the Spectra storage server.
Oh, okay. Very helpful.
So, and inside of this, there's a cache layer and a disk layer for I/O and for resident projects. If you need to get some things quickly, it will be up here in the cache, and that will determine how big that device actually needs to be.
All right, we're here with Martin Greenwood, CTO at YoYotta, and we're going to talk about some updates to YoYotta's backup software. Martin, thanks for joining us on the LTO Show today.
Hello, Pete. Good to see you.
Good to see you again.
And it's the last day of NAB. It's gone well for us.
Yes.
And what we've been showing is our new version 5, which is the latest version of our YoYotta software.
Yeah.
And this can be used in on set, in production and post for managing all of your digital assets, from camera cards all the way through to data tapes, and utilizing maybe cloud storage as well. An app running on the Mac can control standalone LTO drives, index RAIDs, SANs, cloud buckets, and we can also control tape libraries like the Mag Store, you know, 1,000, 2,000,
Right.
4,000. And you can see the new interface that gives you a very graphic look with all the tapes loaded in there.
That's great.
And this is very helpful for people loading up tapes, taking tapes out. They know exactly what to put in. And then our job interface allows you to set up jobs for large, small archives, large archives, moving things from one place to another.
Yeah.
And of course, it's all checksum verified.
Excellent.
Sure.
So a few things I want to focus in on with you today that are kind of new features, I think, in this version. Let's start with this staging drive concept that you've introduced to make tape backup more efficient from your disk or what have you.
So tape works at a high speed, and it likes to maintain that high speed.
Sure does.
It will slow down or stop if necessary, but obviously it's ideal if it keeps being fed a good stream of data. Now, if you've got fast storage, that's great.
Yeah.
But quite often people are using shared storage now, or they want to download from the cloud and move it from there and archive it. So in the past, we've had to, this are very different speeds.
Yes.
So the download from cloud might be fast, but then someone else uses the link. The NAS might be running quickly. Someone else hits play on their grading system. You lose your bandwidth here. And that's not ideal. So in the past, we would have set up 2 jobs, a job to set it up and to stage it on a RAID, and then transfer that RAID. It's all verified, and so there's no harm in doing that, but it's an additional process. So now in version 5, we're able to automatically utilize an SSD drive as like a staging tier inside the software. So it means we can fill that up, hopefully as fast as possible. So before we were always trying to get matched source and destination. And now it means we can truly go from anything to anything, making it much easier to move data around.
Yeah, and typically speaking, and a lot of people don't realize, a tape drive wants a constant stream. That's really the only way to max out the public for bandwidth. And it's also better for the drive because some of this back hitching and shoe shining that occurs when a drive is waiting for data.
Add head wear and so on.
Yes, all that.
And then it gives the tape a bad name. Customers doing small archives, large archives, people routinely running petabyte jobs to tape, and they can predict exactly how long it's going to take. They'll probably be using RAIDs, though, dedicated to the process.
Yes.
Now we simplify that. You can take it from where it is rather than having to move it into the data lab.
So in your software, this ability to stage these jobs in a more simple and automated way, it can use any type of disk for that, but even a simple single SSD.
Yes, you do want
at least the
a
size.
Semi-professional one, and generally it means that the larger they are, the bigger the heatsink, it's probably going to be better because SSDs are designed, the cheaper ones are designed to work very fast for short periods of time. So you put a few photos on, you run it for maybe 5 minutes maximum. And what happens is if it gets hot, it throttles the speed back.
Good to know.
And you'll notice that the smaller ones may get literally burning hot in your hands. So the professional versions have a larger heat sink to dissipate that. And then it means you can be using it, all day long. What's built into version 5, which is new, we've always monitored the health of tape drives and tapes But now we're doing that for SSDs as well. There's a technology called Smart,
Yes.
which looks at the sectors, the blocks that you've used in the SSD. SSDs are designed to, they do wear out.
Yeah, they have wear leveling technology
That's
built
right.
into them.
Yeah, and we're able to monitor that. That's handy for things like camera cards as well, so that you can predict that they might be wearing out and fail if they've been used for a year or two.
Yeah.
You might want to cycle them out. And the same thing, obviously, we can monitor our staging cache. You wouldn't want to, for example, you wouldn't want to be using the SSD inside your Mac Mini or your laptop. You add one into the system, an external unit on Thunderbolt. Our whole engine runs, things like copy and verification, around about 20 gigabytes per second is our upper limit. So we've got plenty of bandwidth to be able to work with faster and faster devices. Thunderbolt, 5 now, increasing the speed.
Yes. So, and there's Thunderbolt 5 versions of tape backup hardware coming out any day now.
Yeah.
So one other thing I wanted to chat with you about today, Martin, is you've now included support for encryption.
Yes.
On backups to tape.
That's right.
How have you implemented that, and what are some of the?
Okay. Well, a little bit of history. Inside tape drives, the controller is able to encrypt.
Yeah.
But it's a bit of an older generation of encryption. And what it would do is encrypt the whole tape. Okay. And what that would mean, if you wanted to restore data from it, either the whole tape or a few files, you'd be telling the drive to decrypt the data. So it would be unencrypted in the data lab, which is not really what you want. The idea of encryption is, as you pass through different processes, as you go from cloud down to a drive to a tape, you want it to move, if possible, and for certain projects that they want to be encrypted the whole time. And then the keys are made available to the end user who's authorized to look at the content, the colorist, the compositor, and the data archivist or restorer doesn't need or want to see the actual content. So what we've built into version 5 is that in the middle of our copy engine, we can switch in an encryption module, and that can actually work on a file by file basis. Right. So some files you may not want to encrypt, like reports or documentation, and that can go on the tape, and that means they can load the tape and read that freely. Thumbnails that we've put on the tape, we may have another key so that someone can decode just the thumbnails. Okay. And then the actual content would be protected with the latest generation of encryption.
I see. Very interesting. So you've implemented encryption through your software.
That's right. So it's software encryption
instead of using the drive-based encryption.
Exactly.
But it sounds like a lot more flexibility in a variety of use cases. And I think you told me in our prep that you still can enjoy the benefits of. So the key that you use for the encryption, how do you get it to a third party if necessary?
Okay. Well, when we're working on things like the Mac, we can get the secure enclave in here to generate a key, which is not even exportable, the private key. So it's ultra secure, and we can set it up to do that on a number of machines for the people who are authorized to get the key. So that's one great way of doing key management, and because our app runs on the Mac, it's a good combination. So as I say, just to repeat that, the fact that it generates a private key, and it's not, there's a thing called a keychain, which is like a software thing, which is exportable. Then there's also like a hardware chip in there that you literally cannot get into at all. So it means that the key is completely secure, but we also can can encrypt the keys and distribute them for you to store and use. And it's industry standard encryption,
right? So
you can decrypt with other software.
So with your system, I don't need to set up I think they're called KMIP servers, right? I don't have to set up a dedicated key server on my network and manage all that like I would with the hardware-based encryption.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. And we also have neat tricks like you can share the full keys. But I can give you a key just to work on the audio if you're the sound guy.
See, that is,
So, and they can take the tape, which has got, confidential camera material, on there, but they won't be able to look at that, or vice versa. The offline editor will just be able to look at transcodes. And so on. So we're using separate keys, and we're managing them here. But then obviously we distribute them to you, encrypted.
Yeah.
Then you have responsibilities of putting them in your own hardware store, security.
Sure. Is there a performance trade-off, though, to these design decisions you made to support encryption this way versus
No, there's no slowdown at all. We can do that in parallel with our verification and so on. And we're actually verifying the original content, which is obviously wrapped inside the encryption, and also the actual encrypted file. So again, you can verify material coming off the drive without decrypting it. And then when it's decrypted, it's checked yet again that the content inside is valid.
And I don't need more RAM or CPU to...
No, the great thing, that's one of the reasons why we focus on Mac, is Apple Silicon has really transformed a lot of workflows. Archive systems tend to run for long periods of time connected to things like the Magstore tape library over there. And Mac Minis run very cool, low power and high performance on all the models have got enough power. Some of the, you may want a few more ports. That would be a reason to get a particular model to connect Thunderbolt ports to more devices. But, literally we can use, we're up to, with version 5, we control up to 4 tape libraries with 8 tape drives. So that's like enterprise software, which would be, in a different ballpark price-wise. We're far more advanced than that at a lower price model.
So Martin, and we've kind of gone over on time, so we're going to try to keep it a bit brief, but you've implemented some really exciting support for S3 storage. Please tell us about that.
That's right. So before we had some S3 in our version 4, some support, but it would upload and download as a separate process because of the reasons I said before about speed matching. We have clients who say, well, I've got a 10 gig link, and they forget about the fact that obviously other departments are using that same, the great thing is it's shareable, but that's a bad thing that it's shareable. You really want your dedicated 10 or 25 gig link, but you're not going to get that. But now integrating it into the software so that you can pull files from S3 and go direct to tape if required. And one last thing is we have the ability to conform option. So we can put in editorial timelines because obviously once you've done the offline edit, you don't need most of the content. You just need selected files. So we can pull some of those files from a cloud bucket, some of them from a drive, a RAID, and then pass them on.
So this conform, to explain that a bit more, because I think it's really important, because it does sound like it makes the whole workflow related to your storage use and efficiency a lot more efficient.
If you think of it,
so it's content aware based on what platform it was, what the file types are.
Exactly. It has to look at file types, because if you just looked at the clip name, you might be picking up the offline, so an HD version of the content. There might be times when you want that to pull that back to give to an editor, but there'll be other times when you want the original camera material, or where you want the EXRs, which have been made, image sequences that have been made which you've had some other process. And the digital asset manager doesn't have necessarily all that metadata. Whenever we index a drive, a tape, or a bucket, we extract the metadata and build that up with optional thumbnails as well. So we know the codec, the resolution, all the time codes, and so on. And then we grab the editorial timeline, which could be EDLs, XMLs, etc. So we're supporting, Avid, Premiere, Final Cut,
all the big
workflows. So you grab all your which is the recipe.
Mhm.
for cutting your 100 hours of material down to your 15-minute program.
And that's what's in your conformed database
Exactly.
that you're maintaining.
And it drops it in here, and it's like a very advanced shopping list.
Yeah.
And it goes through and works out, we need those red files, those Sony files, different stills or whatever. And it will find out where they are. Some of them might be on a RAID locally or on a shared storage. So it will retrieve those. Other ones will be, on tape. Well, they'll all be on tape, but for reasons of speed and parallel,
Yeah.
you can restore. And we can then generate a restore list to go to your drive, your tape drive. And if you've got multiple tape drives, we can actually make separate restore lists and run in parallel. So we can restore, using multiple tape drives.
That's very interesting. But again, with this capability, you can be very selective about what you might restore from cloud,
Yes.
right?
Which is
the egress fees, or we know what
exactly.
kill you. So that this is new to this implementation of your S3 support, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So that's very powerful.
Yeah.
Well, that's a great overview, Martin. I really
Okay.
appreciate it. Very
Cool.
exciting. Always fun to see you and your team here at NAB.
Yeah. Thanks for coming by our booth.
Yeah. Thanks for joining us on the LTO show. We're here with David Fox of Archiware. Going to talk a little bit about the newest version of Archiware P5 and what people can look forward to. David, good to see you again.
Hey, Pete. Nice to be here. Thanks
man.
for coming to chat with us. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, 2026, another NAB show.
Uh-huh.
It's version 8 that we have had out since earlier this year.
Mm-hmm.
We have a replication tool called P5 Synchronize.
Right.
That previously was able to synchronize between on-prem storage hosts, maybe across WANs, different sites, replicating data. So that can now also go to S3 storage buckets. So, Amazon, Google, Backblaze, Wasabi, etc. So you can now have like infrastructure where you've got like a Denver, Michigan office. You can send data between those two, and then one of them could send all of that up to the cloud. You can have lots of different nodes doing different things in different directions.
Yeah.
You can orchestrate it all around schedules.
Powerful.
So that's quite nice. And then, of course, we've got our traditional P5 archive, people using that with LTFS to push stuff to tape, free up space on disk. We now have the ability to work with EDL files, so you can export your timeline from your editor. P5 can use that to know what high-res files to restore from LTO. So if you've got a workflow where you archive everything up front, get the high-res off the storage, do your edit, and then at the end do your conform, we can now work in that kind of environment. We've got the ability now, when customers are archiving, there may be some kind of regulatory compliance over the archive, which means that they can store it for 2 years, and then they've got to delete.
Sure.
So, for example, maybe body cam, security footage, law enforcement, that kind of stuff. So what you can now do with our archive is you can archive stuff off to tape, you can set a 2-year retention, and then you can delete stuff from our index. It will indicate when a tape can be recycled.
I see.
So
Now, can that be set for any period of time?
could be ad hoc.
Okay.
So you can just go into the index, take a folder from 2022, delete it from the index, and then you can look at your tapes, and we'll show you which tapes are now completely empty because they were only storing 2023 data.
Yeah.
So it means that your archive, whilst obviously it's great to archive stuff and work on the basis that you're keeping it forever,
But sometimes you're not.
Yeah,
you need to roll it over.
It's a regulatory thing.
Particularly in the video surveillance market, there's a use case for that.
So DLM now allows you to graph and analyze archive storage by client or any other metadata query.
So that's digital lifecycle management, I presume.
That's it. It's data
Nice.
lifecycle management.
Data lifecycle
which we already had,
Yeah.
which does verification and migration of data,
Right.
maybe to tape to cloud, the other way around, tape to tape, but changing the generation.
Yep.
So that now allows you to do some analytics based on your customers that you're archiving.
Maybe you could use it to do some chargebacks.
See who's consuming the archive.
Yeah.
So you know what your cost is for the archive, but you've got 10 clients. Maybe one of them is the monster that's using all of the archive storage. So the dashboard is where you can track that. And the final one is LTO hardware.
And that's a
encryption.
big one.
It is.
It's huge. So how do you guys implement that?
The encryption, we basically have now a key management section in the product. So you can either bring in keys, which is our preference, because we'd sooner you already have a key that you have stored outside of P5.
Right.
You can bring that in.
So if I have a key management server, my own keys, it'll work with your software.
You can bring those keys in. Or if you don't have one, you can generate keys inside of us, but then you need to export them because they obviously need to be stored externally.
Yeah.
And then it's a pool-based encryption.
Okay.
So we work on the basis of storage pools, which is a collection of tapes for a particular purpose.
Yep.
So you just turn encryption on a pool, everything gets encrypted from that point onwards.
And that's using the hardware encryption on the drive or software encryption in your software?
256-bit AES
hardware
encryption in the
encryption
drive.
native on the LTO.
So so you take that tape, send it to your client to deliver something, send them the key via some secure means.
Yep.
Not a piece of, not a post-it note on the tape.
Hopefully not.
And then they'll be able to put the key in and read the tape. So
Excellent.
that's a big one because
Encryption
a
for
lot of
data
our
in
customers
motion.
have been asking for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's fantastic update, David. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anything else we should take as a takeaway from Archiware?
Just that we like the fact at the moment that we have a really easy way in a browser to browse a customer's disk-based storage, and then they can choose what they want to move to LTO. So they're going to be freeing up space on storage, which is difficult to expand in the current climate
And
of the hard drive
expensive in
situation.
today's current climate,
We'll just
right?
touch
Yeah.
tonight. So so it's not easy to add another 50 terabytes even.
Yeah.
If you add an LTO, P5, you can use the simple web interface. You can just move stuff.
Fantastic.
So it doesn't have to be thought of so much as a long-term archive. You can also think of it as shuffling around to be able to work within the confines of the amount of disk storage that you have.
Yeah.
So I think that's a way that tape is going to be used much more in the coming months until things level out again.
I would tend to agree. You know, you guys, we're here at NAB, of course, Media and Entertainment, and you guys excel in this domain, but you have so many features that seem enterprise friendly.
Yeah.
How is the enterprise business for you guys? Are you still primarily selling to M&E customers, or
We're expanding a little bit further out. So like I work primarily with customers in the UK. And we've had quite a lot of education sales, so kind of sciencey faculties within universities.
Yeah.
Where there's a lot of
well, you have an API, which I find
do.
very intriguing
That's what
for
they
those
love,
kind of folks. And
because
let's
they're
face it,
Linux people.
yeah, and the future is it's API to API. That's the future.
Yeah. And obviously S3 is a big part of that API interplay between different vendors' products. And the other thing I just want to restate is that we have the abilities for tape to be addressed as an S3 bucket, which is means that any software or workflow that can send objects to an S3 bucket and work within the deep archive mechanism where objects are flushed to tape and they're going to take a couple of hours to bring back,
right?
Then we can do that. So we can do exactly what AWS Deep Archive does, but on-prem. Customer owns the storage. They know where the data is. It's in the building. They can do their own redundancy, et cetera, et cetera.
And on that note, that's why we are coming to you today from the on-prem zone.
That's right.
At NAB.
We're in the on-prem zone. Yeah.
Which is really kind of a cool.
We're surrounded by a bunch of products which are all about, maybe repatriating data that's in the cloud or just working more with what you've got on-prem.
Yeah, we're going to have to, as an industry, work to expand that concept a little bit as a coalition, perhaps. Federation. Well, David Fox, thanks so much for spending time. Always nice to see you.
You're welcome.
We'll see you next year. So that's a wrap from our NAB coverage this year. A huge thank you to Mike Waters from Spectralogic and Martin Greenwood from YoYotta and David Fox from Archiware for taking the time to talk to us on the show floor and walk us through what's new. It's a really exciting time for LTO Tape, and we're going to keep bringing you the conversations that matter. If you want more content like this, head over to LTOshow.com, subscribe, browse our archives, and stay connected. We'll see you next time.
You've been watching the LTO Show. Thanks for joining us. The LTO Show is produced and written by Pete Paisley. Thanks to our sponsors, these guys and these other guys. Don't miss our next episode coming soon. We feature industry leaders in data archiving that supports LTO storage.